The insane true story of Anthony Casso. True crime fans, prepare to be blown away. This intriguing story transports us to the dark underground of 1980s New York City, where Casso's rise in the Mafia was propelled by brutality, betrayal, and shocking turns. From becoming a government informant until his eventual downfall, you won't believe the perilous friendships he formed and the secrets he kept hidden. Who was the real Casso? How did he manage to avoid justice for so long? Join us as we uncover the chilling saga of one of the mob's most ruthless killers in this captivating video. Back in the 1980s, this guy was no joke. He was the underboss of the Lucchese family, and man, he had a reputation for being one of the most ruthless hitmen in New York City. He didn't care about any mafia codes or rules. He'd just go ahead and kill anyone he even suspected might be an informant. He was seriously paranoid. I mean, this dude was responsible for taking out civilians just on the basis of his suspicions. Informants really got under his skin, and he made sure to eliminate them without a second thought. But you know what they say about karma, right? After 3 years of being on the run, Casso finally got caught when he was stepping out of the shower. Talk about bad luck. And in 1993, he spilled the beans, admitting to the murder of at least 36 people he thought were informants. And get this, he even ordered the execution of a whopping 100 more. Casso's life started in the rough streets of South Brooklyn, and he climbed up the Mafia ladder by showing off his killer skills and taking care of anyone who dared to talk to the police. But it all went downhill for him when he ended up becoming an informant himself. They locked him up in a supermax prison in Arizona, and he was handed a mind-boggling sentence of nearly 500 years behind bars. Oh, Anthony Casso's journey in the Mafia is something else. He was born and raised in Brooklyn, right near the waterfront. As a kid, he was already up to some mischief, shooting birds off buildings and getting into scrapes with his gang, the South Brooklyn Boys. The Mafia influence ran in his family. His godfather was a captain in the Genovese crime family, and while his father worked as a longshoreman, he had a history of burglaries in the past. Casso was drawn to his father's notorious past, and even took on the name Gas Pipe, inspired by his dad's rumored favorite weapon. At just 21 years old, he got recruited into the Lucchese crime family, which was one of the top 3 Mafia outfits in New York City at the time. He started off doing loan sharking and bookmaking under Christopher Fernari at the Brooklyn docks. This guy had quite a sense of dark humor. Once, when a dock worker mentioned his new shoes, Gaspipe playfully dropped 500 pounds of cargo on the guy's feet, breaking most of his toes. Ouch! He wanted to test the durability of those boots, I guess. Even though Casso faced multiple arrests between 1965 and 1977 for various charges, including gun assault and heroin trafficking, he always managed to avoid convictions because witnesses refused to testify against him. Talk about luck. With his track record, Casso's reputation grew, and he became a made man in 1979 alongside fellow Lucchese mobster Vittorio Amuso. From there, they delved into some serious criminal activities, extorting construction contractors and trucking companies, trafficking drugs, and running gambling operations. They even formed a burglary ring called the Bypass Gang, filled with safecrackers known as Fernari's 19th hole crew, and together, they managed to rob a staggering $100 million by the end of the 1980s. Now, that's one wild rise in the Mafia, don't you think? You won't believe the drama that went down in the mob back in the 80s and 90s. John Gotti, a captain in the Gambino family, decided to take out his boss, Paul Castellano, in a coup without getting the green light from the Commission, the regulatory body overseeing the 5 families in New York. This move angered Anthony Corallo, the boss of the Lucchese family, and Vincent Giganti, the boss of the Genovese family. So they brought in Anthony Casso to settle the score. Casso teamed up with Lucchese capo Daniel Marino to get inside information, and they found out about a meeting Gotti had planned in Brooklyn. They rigged the car of Gotti's underboss, Frank DiCiccio, with explosives, hoping to take out Gotti, but Gotti canceled his appearance last minute, and poor DiCiccio was the only one killed. When Corallo got convicted and sentenced to a century in prison, Amuso took over the Lucchese family, and Casso became the consigliere, feeling untouchable in his new position. He had a knack for dealing with informants, either taking them out personally or ordering hits on them. To stay ahead of the game, Casso even hired corrupt NYPD officers, Louis Eppolito and Stephen Caracappa, Europa to feed him information for a hefty monthly fee. These officers went on to commit 8 murders for Casso. Talk about a sinister partnership. The FBI had their eyes on Casso as he lived the high life, splurging on expensive suits and dining at fancy restaurants, but he kept his killing spree going, eliminating suspected informants all over Harlem, the Bronx, and New Jersey, racking up a body count of at least 17 by 1991. And while he was building a $1 million mansion in Brooklyn, bodies were piling up in garages and car trunks, or just vanishing altogether. But the law finally caught up with him when his NYPD informants warned him of a racketeering indictment. Both Casso and Amuso went on the run, but Amuso was nabbed in Pennsylvania. Even in hiding, Casso didn't let up. He ordered around 24 more mob hits, and he even tried to have his architect killed when he complained about payment issues for the mansion. He even went after a suspected informant and a Lucchese captain, Peter Chiodo, and his sister, but they miraculously survived the attempts on their lives. Casso was a ruthless force to be reckoned with, truly the mob's most cold-blooded killer. Alfonso D'Arco, who was part of the Lucchese family, realized that Casso wasn't just dealing with informants, he was ruthlessly executing people left and right. D'Arco, fearing for the safety of his children, decided he had enough and contacted the FBI to become a government witness. Meanwhile, Casso was so determined to maintain his power that he even attempted to have a federal prosecutor and a judge killed in 1992 and 1993, respectively. The authorities were well aware of Casso's deadly actions, but he proved to be elusive for some time. Finally, on January 19, 1993, federal agents managed to arrest Casso while he was getting out of the shower at his mistress's home in Bud Lake, New Jersey. He faced a whopping 72 criminal counts, including 14 gangland killings and racketeering charges. In 1994, he pleaded guilty to these charges, and in an effort to secure a plea deal, even though he entered the Witness Protection Program while serving his time in federal prison, he got kicked out of it in 1997 due to a series of bribes and assaults. In 1998, Casso was convicted of racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, bribery, extortion, and tax evasion, resulting in a jaw-dropping 455-year sentence. As if that wasn't enough, in 2009, Casso was diagnosed with prostate cancer while behind bars at the United States Penitentiary Tucson in Arizona. And then, in a cruel twist of fate, he contracted COVID-19 on November 5, 2020. By that time, he was already in a wheelchair and facing severe lung problems. Despite his request for compassionate release being rejected by a judge on November 28, 2020, Anthony Casso finally succumbed to the virus on December 15, 2020, while on a ventilator. That is the riveting story of Anthony "Gaspipe" Casso, one of the mob's most vicious murderers, and his eventual demise as a government informant. If you're hungry for more fascinating stories and knowledge, subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. Until then, stay curious and keep an eye out.